Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. In this video, we will have our discussion on the chart of a person who is currently doing a lot of rounds in the media newsroom. So guys, I'm talking about the chart of Jeffrey Epstein, like where recently as the unsealed documents have been released in the courtroom and the names which have been doing the rounds, which constitutes of the prominent people from all across the world, from Donald Trump to Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Stephen Hawking. So this chart needs to be studied on so many levels. This could be a criminal mind, this could be a sudden reversal of fortune, and this could be like how bad and nefarious your intentions could be. So guys, like the way I always provide you the backstory, what leads me towards selection of any topic for my videos. So I actually wanted to make a video on the bad faces, like when we talk about all those people who were doing pretty good in their life, but suddenly a bad period, a bad phase come in the life. So what could be the combinations for that? This could be the yogas in your chart, or this might have something to do with your dashas. So when I was doing my research, as just in order to support that topic, let me pick up some case studies, and I somehow landed at this person. I looked at his chart and the details which I found. I was like, okay, let me make an exclusive video on his chart first, and then in subsequent videos we can have our discussion on the topic which initially I wanted to make a video on. So guys, definitely imagine a person who started as a calculus, as a mathematics teacher in a prominent school, and who ended up amassing such a big fortune. Like he started his own wealth management firm as well. So what can we see as a astrology case study material in his chart? That is something which we will try to do in this video. So guys, to start with, like I'm pretty much sure that the details on which I have worked, because the confusion always comes around the time of birth, because date of birth, place of birth we easily get. It's only about the time of birth, but the portals where I found the date and when I matched with the timeline of his life, that actually proved to be a lot synchronous to his life outcomes. And like the way guys, I always say this thing, predicting is another part. Just understanding the psychological state of someone, understanding the deeper inner layers of someone's personality is one of the main objective of astrology. So guys, just because this guy is born on the 20th. So now guys, as you know this thing that whenever you are in the prominence of the number 2 vibration, this could be born on a 2nd, this could be born on an 11th or the 20th of any month. So these people tend to remain very lucky in forming some good partnership, like making or establishing some very good connection. This is a kind of a quality which comes very naturally to the number 6 people, which is being ruled by the planet Venus, and to the number 2 people, which is being ruled by the planet Moon. So guys, this is the details on which I have worked on his chart. So the details are born on January 20th 1953, 3:15 is the time of birth, and Brooklyn. So now guys, this is the details. The chart which has now there on your screen is of someone who has got a Scorpio Lagna. So guys, like the way I always say this thing, that Scorpions are being ruled by the planet Mars. Scorpio is a fixed sign, it's a water sign. So tendency to get into something which is very dark, which is very secretive, which is very mysterious, tend to remain very strong, whether your moon sign is Scorpio or whether your Lagna is Scorpio. And like the way guys, I always say this thing, that if your personality needs to be assessed, we have to see what is your rising sign, we have to see what is your rising sign nakshatra, then we have to see that which all planets are placed in the first house, looking at the first house, and where the ascendant lord has gone. So guys, in his case, as you can see that his ascendant lord has gone to the 4th house. Over there he has got a conjunction of Mars and Venus, and even if you will look at the degrees of Mars and Venus, they are very tightly conjunct. So that in itself just gives us this indication that whenever you have planets who are so tightly conjunct, that in majority of its divisional charts they are going to be together. So that in itself means that the personality is highly or very sensual. And guys, like the way if you have to define someone's personality, definitely second house also tells about your inculcated values, that also tells about your virtues. But when we talk about what defines you, it has more to do with your first house, your fourth house as well, deep inside how you feel. That is something which we can see from the fourth house. So in his case, we got this answer that Mars and Venus are very tightly conjunct. Now after that, like the way I mentioned this thing, that one defining trait about his life, about his personality is about being very strong with numbers, highly adept with numbers, investment portfolios and all. And this is what his firm used to do, that he never used to work on a commission basis, he used to work on a flat fee, and he even used to insist on even getting the power of attorney of those big firms to take major big financial investment decision. Now guys, you look at his 12th house, he has Saturn being exalted over there. So that is one of the validation that the chart on which we are studying seems to be accurate. Now guys, definitely whenever you have a planet which is both your ascendant nakshatra lord and your moon nakshatra lord, that somehow becomes very important, kind of a game changer or a defining planet for your life. So in his case, his ascendant nakshatra is Anuradha and his moon nakshatra is also Uttar Bhadrapada. And guys, one more thing you have to see over here, that when we talk about the Lagan nakshatra being Anuradha has got a very strong possibility of like gaining in life because of the friendship, because of the networking. So that is something which we can also see kind of finding resonance in his chart as well. So far we saw that his ascendant lord in the fourth house tells about his sensual personality. His Saturn being exalted in the 12th house just tells about foreign wealth management, investment management, portfolio. Along with that, if you will look at his second house, definitely it's all about mathematics, calculus, numbers, good with finance. So he has got Mercury placed over there in the second house. Now guys, if you will look at his third house, so like the way guys, after this I will also show you the timeline of the major like milestone or major event of his life as well, matching it with his running dasha as well. So like the way, imagine someone who started his career just as a teacher and who ended up like amassing such a big fortune, starting his wealth management firm and hobnobbing, rubbing shoulder with some of the most powerful people of the whole world. So those kind of things can only happen if you have a prominent third house or you have a prominent 11th house. So in his case, in the third house, you can see his sun is conjunct with Rahu. So this is kind of a typical alignment where when the time was running well, he was responsible for kind of having connections with some of the most powerful people. But definitely when your own actions are questionable and dasha changed, it also became responsible for your fall as well, because we keep on listening about so many of these offenses, these kind of pedophiles, but somehow they remain in kind of secrecy or they remain hidden in the public's eye. But just because you ended up being in the limelight so much that your case was there all over in the media. After that guys, if we will look at his fifth house where his moon is placed, so again guys, that also tells about, because moon tells about where our emotions, our feelings are attached. So looking at his chart, we get to know that ascendant lord being in this sort of alignment somehow makes you very or highly sensual, and after that where your mind is attached. So fifth house is also the house of, like when we talk about the kids and children and all those people who have these kind of very abrupt kind of fantasies and all. So that we can also see in his case, because his moon where your feelings, your expectations, your desires, your mind is attached, that is also placed in the fifth house. But again guys, from this point of view, that the field in which he built his career that also has to do with the investments. So trading, investment, wealth management. So over there as well, fifth house plays a very integral role. After that, guys, if you will look at his Jupiter, so like if you have your Jupiter placed in the sixth house, so because for the Scorpions as well, Jupiter becomes a very important planet, like because it is a very good friend of the ascendant lord Mars, and it is also the ruler of the second house and the fifth house as well. So Jupiter being kind of in a afflicted state in the sixth house in itself somehow makes your morals, your integrity very questionable. So yes guys, that is how what we can see from his planetary alignments. Along with that, we cannot overlook the importance of the Ketu. So his Ketu is placed in the ninth house. So once we will get into the timeline of his events, matching it with the running dasha, you will get to know that somehow Ketu was also responsible for putting him in the right places at the right times. That is a different case, that being in those places, what sort of karma he accumulated. But yes, Ketu actually functioned in a benevolent way in his case. So guys, looking at his chart, you cannot say this thing that his nodal axis is afflicted, because Rahu in the third house with such a powerful sun actually worked out for him. There are like so many people who are always striving hard to get into the inner circle, so which actually worked for him. And same is the case, we can relate with the Ketu as well. So now guys, after this, now I will just show you little bit of the timelines when things started happening for him. So the first event is that definitely he started teaching calculus and physics in mid 70s at the Dalton School. It's a school which is being where very children of the prominent people go there in the school, and that was the only reason he was able to hobnob with rich affluent people or establish good connections with them. That was the time when he was in the Ketu Dasha, like from May 1976 till May 83 he was in the Ketu Dasha. So that was the time when Ketu was actually working for him. After that guys, he started his own wealth management firm in 1981, J. Epstein and Co. So it happened in the time period of the Ketu Mahadasha, and it was the Saturn Antaradasha. And because the time when he started this venture, so like the way I mentioned that he had this set bar that I will only take the accounts of company whose valuation is close to or more than $1 billion, and that I'm talking about in 1981. I'm not talking about the current scenario. So that was the time, and he was in the Ketu Mahadasha and the Saturn Antaradasha, Saturn being exalted in the 12th house. And that is one of the reason guys, like the way we say this thing, that people have got so many of the like restrictions in their mind when it comes down to, okay, Saturn is not a favorable planet for the Leo Lagna people, Saturn is not a favorable planet for the Scorpions, it will not give them good results. If a planet is well placed in its dasha, in its time period, it still holds the capacity to give good results. But the only concern is that if your actions, your deeds are questionable and you are inimical to that planet, like the way we talk about Cancer, Leo or Scorpions, then in its time period it's gonna cause you major problems. So yes guys, in the Ketu Mahadasha and the Saturn Antardasha, he started this firm. After that guys, in March 2005, now because the first time when his crimes were exposed by a minor victim, a 14-year-old girl whose parents first time went to a police station, or they went to the cops, then they went to the media. So the first breakthrough happened in March 2005. So that was the time when he was in the Sun Dasha and the Rahu Antardasha. So like the way guys, that is what I always tell about Rahu. The problem these days is that with astrology becoming so fast paced, and the life is like, now we are not even living in long format videos, we are living in the time period of the shorts. So people think that Rahu can make them suddenly famous, suddenly people can go viral, and these are those people who get 2 minutes of fame and their life deep inside is so hollow, there's so much of the sadness, depression. So all those influencers, then we get to know that they committed suicide, there was the cases of depression, alcohol, drug abuse and all. So that's what I say, whatsoever Rahu gives in its time, when its time is getting over, it takes back majority of it. But when it comes down to the planets like Jupiter, planets like Ketu, planets like Saturn, so whatsoever they take from you before leaving you from their clutches, they give you more. Like this is what we say for the Saturn Sadesati as well, that in the last phase it still holds the capacity to give you major fortune as well. But yes, the first two phases of the Sadesati tend to cause lot of the problems. Sorry. So yes guys, so let me make it silent. So yes guys, so I was talking about that the first time when it happened for him, because before that he was in this impression that he is invincible, no one is gonna catch him, and he was actually building up this kind of cult, kind of pyramid of girls trapping in his like trap, and because of his connections and all. So from almost from 2001 to 2006 he exploited more than 80 minor girls. So imagine, he was in such of that invincible mode that nothing is gonna happen to him or no one is gonna harm him. So the first time it happened in the Sun Mahadasha and the Rahu Antardasha. So now Rahu has started acting, creating problems, obstructions. After that guys, and guys, this is also one more point which I want to highlight over here, that all those people who in the Rahu's influence, they grow rapidly. So if something has been built on questionable foundation, it also falls with the same pace as well. So yes guys, like the way I mentioned that he exploited more than 80 girls from 2001 to 2006. It all started in the Venus Dasha. Yeah, how come I forgot the most important thing. So what happened guys in his case, like the way I mentioned this thing, that in the Ketu Dasha he started his firm, which I mentioned, but the majority of his fortune happened, majority of his connections happened, being in the page 3 happened, all of that celebrity status happened in the Venus Mahadasha. So in his case, Venus is the 12th house lord and the 7th house lord, and being placed in the 4th house. So everything to do with, and guys, I always say this thing, that when it comes down to luxury, when it comes down to possession of all those high-end exotic things, that is always the domain of the 4th house. Like I will not be surprised that if we talk about the founder and owners of big perfume brands, big luxury brand, their 4th house has to be in a prominent state. Their Venus you will definitely find in a prominent state, because their business is being ruled by the planet Venus. And guys, there is one more thing which you have to understand when it comes down to Venus. Venus is not like judgmental like Saturn, that you have to prove yourself, or like Sun, like Mars. Venus is ready to unconditionally give you whatever you are capable of, or if your chart is supporting that. So yes guys, from 1983 till 2003 he was in the Venus Dasha when all of this fortune and his empire was built. So yes guys, going back to the timelines which we were discussing. So yes guys, investigators in New York City took up the case, and he was arrested on July 6th 2019. So because the thing is, he was briefly arrested and was put in a county, but it was more of a kind of a charade, where majority of the times he used to be out of the prison only, his limousine used to pick him and he used to come back late. So that was all a charade, but the main thing happened. So the investigators in New York City took up the case, and finally, like when we say that being in the central prison, it happened in July 6, 2019, and finally eventually he was found dead in his prison cell at 6 AM on July 23rd, 2019. So yes guys, this is how astrology works. The only reason I did a video on his chart is that because everything is deeply ingrained, encrypted in your chart. The dashas are definitely gonna trigger the events, and if you have like specifically nodal axis in a strengthened state, if you have a strong Venus, if you have a strong Saturn, so the extent to which they can take you, that is something which I wanted to present as a case study of his case. So yes guys, for further more updates and notifications on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. Dhanyavad.